Carson Pfeffer, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode of Bowling with the Pfeffer?
Jason Belmonte.
The best bowler made the two-handed style to what it is today, and now I know so many bowlers are going to it.
I feel like I've liked him ever since I grew into the PBA, and I just want him on the show.
Bowling with the Pfeff.
Bowling with the Pfeff.
Are you ready?
Ready.
Your bowling stories.
They found you.
They did.
Pfeff's all over.
Every week.
Bowling has picked back up again.
Live.
UW Whitewater.
There it is.
Why the fedora? Do I look good in it?
I think you look great in it.
I want to challenge Skylar Pence.
Mike Hatton.
I'm going to challenge Alec Keplinger.
Let's do this.
Roll 'em.
This is Bowling with the Pfeff.
Well, good Thursday evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Bowling with the Pfeff, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our channel. And oh boy, do we have a bowling story for you tonight. You know who's here. The comments are already coming in. Paul's waiting, and you won't have to wait much longer. But today is also a big day for other reasons on the PBA Tour, where we have a little bit more clarity on how the TV picture is going to look moving forward on the PBA Tour, as the PBA and CBS announced a media deal, a 2-year extension that begins in 2026. The CBS Sports will have more than 3 times as much televised bowling as it did in 2025 in this next season. In 2026, they'll have the rights to the PBA World Series of Bowling, including the World Championship Finals, which are planned to be on the main CBS network. 2026 CBS Sports Network will air the prelims and championship round of each of the 4 Animal Patterns championships. CBS Sports also have the PBA Commissioner's Cup, which is now known as the PBA Tour Finals. New format with the new name, as it will be open to all PBA members, and the competitors will start with a qualifying round before the final 8 get to TV. The top 8 make TV, which will again be 9 hours of bowling on the CBS Sports Network. And of course, the World Championship on the main CBS network, which is pretty exciting. Previously, the top 8 players in competition would advance straight to what is still called the Tour Finals, and now it's a little different. Late last month, the PBA announced a multi-year deal to broadcast 10 PBA Tour events live on the CW network in each season, starting in 2026. So we'll still have to see how some of that shakes out, but like I said, things are getting a little more clear. Hey, we've got a merch store in case anybody's interested in t-shirts or hoodies, etsy.com/shop/bowlingwiththepfeffco. Also, Jerry's Score More Bowling Supply inside Wagner's Lanes, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Call them at 715-559-1822. Visionary Video Hub, your home for video with impact. Find out more at visionaryvideohub.com. And of course, our first sponsor, Chip Magnet Salsa. Go to chipmagnetsalsa.com. If you order a 6-pack of the good stuff of Chip Magnet Salsa, you get 25% off with that promo code at checkout. Chip Magnet, raise your snack standards. All right, that's enough of that stuff. Let's get to the heart of the matter, right? Tonight's guest can lay claim to perhaps being the best to ever do it. That debate will rage on no matter how you slice it, but he has 5 more major championships than the next guys, and their names are Earl Anthony and Pete Weber. Sure, he will tell you he suffers from singular chirophobia, which is a condition that more and more bowlers seem to suffer from these days. I may have a minor case of it going forward myself. But he also has the real challenge of circling the globe every time he competes on the PBA Tour for a tournament or a group of multiple tournaments. And the next time that's going to happen is coming up. The 2025 PBA Tour Finals he will be heading to, along with these 7 other players. The Tour Finals will air June 7th and 8th on CBS Sports Network, positioning rounds from 4 to 8 p.m. Wisconsin time on Saturday. And then the Stepladder Finals from 4 to 8 Wisconsin time on Sunday, leading to the championship, 8 p.m. Wisconsin time on Sunday. A lot of bowling on the CBS Sports Network, and a lot of it will involve our guest tonight, the great Jason Belmonte. Jason, it is a pleasure to have you on Bowling with the Faf.
Mate, I appreciate the invitation and very happy to talk to you.
Yeah, we've already got comments lined up here. Brooke Jeanette, who is the head coach of Clark University, says, "Hi, Belmo." She said she's hoping she doesn't go into labor during the show tonight because she's expecting, but she's got her team bowling on sport patterns and wanted to tune in.
No, fantastic. I know Brooke. Brooke has been a really wonderful supporter of mine for a really long time. So, Brooke, I hope everything goes well with the baby. And if it's a boy, Jason is a wonderful name. Don't be afraid to use that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris Pulliam says, "Let's go." He's the head of Bowl Forward and a frequent contributor to the show. MJ checking in. And Shaggy Productions, who is Carson, who you met before the show, he says Belmo is the GOAT.
Thank you, Carson. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get there.
Yeah, for sure. Philly Cheese Bowling says he has the exact same sweatshirt. So good taste in clothing there. MJ says, "What's up, Belmo 1v1?"
I mean, you can bowl me anytime you want if you enter a PBA Tour event. I mean, that's a lot of guys get to bowl against me in that particular circumstance. So yeah, feel free to show up.
There you
bowl
go.
the World Series, bowl the Masters. You'll bowl against me.
There you go. There you go. All right. BSJ83 says, "Watching the PWBA stepladder right now, curious to know who is Belmo's favorite on the ladies tour." And in case folks are wondering, yeah, that's going on Bowl TV right now. Here are the final 5. Any of those 5 make your list, Belmo?
I mean, it's so hard not to put Kelly Kulick in your all-time list. I mean, what she's able to have accomplished, not just bowling with the women, but also bowling against the men. I mean, her historic win at the TOC, I mean, to replicate that, for another lady to replicate that, I'm not entirely sure I'll see that in my lifetime. So, and that event was 50 games long, 48 games long. Like, it wasn't like a quick sprint where she just matched up for a few games and, caught a few breaks and then she wins the title. Like, she had to bowl against us for the week for 50 games nearly, and then to hold the trophy at the end is just remarkable. And, to beat one of the greatest of all time as well on the show to win the title. I mean, yeah, Kelly in that moment, in that situation is really difficult to beat. And I don't want to say any of the other girls don't have a chance. Obviously they do, but I don't know. I like Kelly's chances. Although the show might be halfway through and she might have already lost, so my cake probably won't live very long. But yeah, Kelly's for sure up there. Kelly and Liz. Liz just getting inducted into the Hall of Fame as well. Like, I bowled against Liz. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. The very first time I ever met Liz, on a more friendship level, we were actually bowling in Germany, in Wehrheim. And the format for this particular tournament was you qualified and then it was 2-game totals after you made the cut. And I got paired up against Liz, and the scoring pace was very high. It was a very high scoring tournament. But I remember thinking to myself, of all the people out there, like, you had like Martin Larson, you had Robert Anderson, you had Thomas Lee Anderson, you had Oscar Player, you had all these incredible players, and you're looking at the list and you're like, I think if I had to choose, I'd probably want to play Liz. Like, if that's who I get to, like, I feel like my chances against Liz are going to be a little better. And turns out I get to bowl Liz. So I turned up to the bowling center pretty confident. I was like, that's high scoring. I'm just going to stand right on top of her and then make her move just a little left in the 2 games, and then it's going to be over. She missed twice in 2 games. She bowled 279, and women at the time got 8 pins handicap. So she had an extra 16 pins on top of me, and I think I bowled 500. Like, I think it was still high scoring, and she had me beat after like 16 frames. I was just like, I will never again will I look at a list of names and go, oh, this bowler's the one that I want to bowl because I think I'm going to win against that player. Now I'm like, no, I don't take anybody for anything. I expect everyone's going to have a 279 ball reaction against me now.
Sure. Yeah. No, I don't blame you after that. Brooke says she's a girl, but Jason is a good name.
Jason is still a good name for a girl, Brooke. It's still a good name. Okay. Listen, we live in 2025 now. All right. Change the lettering around or something so it sounds a little more feminine, perhaps.
Okay. Maybe Jason with an E at the end.
Yeah, maybe Jason E.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. Carson says already done, already the GOAT. MJ wants lessons before you go one-on-one, and we have something to discuss that might kind of fit that bill. Philly Cheese Bowling says, any tips for traditional one-handed bowlers using their thumb on how to stay behind and under the ball?
Yeah, I think most people that I talk to when they're trying to improve their bowling, they tend to try to fix the whole picture. You know, you're trying to work on your release in this particular instance. And so you create or you throw your practice shot with your whole approach attached to it. And I think what's really important, and sometimes is overlooked, is isolating whatever it is that you're working on. And so in this particular case, you don't need your approach to work on your release. And then you can practice by isolating that part of your game. So in this case, you know, it might be just standing at the foul line in your finished position, swinging the ball, and then getting that feel of where you want that hand to actually be, creating a smaller and softer swing path. So again, you're not really focused about ball speed or getting to the line. You're just focusing on that hand position and then executing those drills for a really long period of time, which again is another thing. Some people will go, all right, I'm going to do this drill. They'll do it for 5 or 10 minutes and think, oh, I can do it now. And then they implement it into their game. I think it's important to know that, yeah, those changes can take a long time to manifest. So those drills, it may be an hour for every practice session you do for 2 weeks, you know, and then at the end of that 2-week process, you can then implement it into your swing. It's difficult because it's boring and it takes incredible discipline to not just jump ahead. And we do live in a society now, which I see every day with my 4 children. We live in a society today where so much of what we want is just at our fingertips. You know, I want to buy this thing. I can get it shipped to my house today. And I want to watch this very specific TV show. I can download it right now and watch it and stream it. And so having the patience and the understanding of this is going to take time sometimes eludes us, and we just want to happen right now. And so we practice for a really small period of time, implement it straight into our swing, and it's not quite perfect. So I would recommend doing things like that, Philly cheesesteak bowling.
There you go. All right. Glenn Gerstner, the author who is going to be coming on the show coming up here, has 2 questions. Wants to know, when you were growing up, were you able to watch the PBA tournaments in the U.S.? And were there any Australian bowlers you looked up to?
Yeah, so I was introduced to the PBA, I think in my very early teens. We had 2 Americans that traveled from America, lived in my small town. I believe the husband worked at the mines that are just outside of town for the mining company. And so they came over and they were the ones that were saying, hey, do you know anything about the PBA Tour? And I was like, no, what's the PBA Tour? And this is going to declare how old I am, but this was before we had the internet, right? and Google. So there was no global reach on knowing what was going on. And they said, oh, look, next time we go back home, we'll bring some tapes back or whatever it was. Anyway, turns out they weren't coming back, but they sent us in the mail some VHS tapes, and that wasn't my first knowledge of the PBA Tour. The very first show I watched, Norm Duke was on it. He had a purple beast, I think it was, and he was just circling the whole lane with this ball. And oh my God, did I want that ball? And it's one of the reasons why I bought, or had my parents at the time buy me a beast, was because I watched Norm Duke win a championship circling the whole lane with the beast. And I told Norm that story, and he thought it was a cool little story. So that was when I was able to figure it all out and know that there was something like that existed. But following it was impossible. We didn't have it on our TVs. I had to get our American friends to send over tapes every now and then. So it wasn't until the invention of global access through the internet was I able to be a little bit more aware of stuff. And as for were there any Australian bowlers? There was one in particular. His name was Andrew Frawley, still one of my good mates. He was, in my eyes, the best bowler Australia ever made, male bowler. And he was also one of the guys, along with Tim Mack, that when I started to travel through Asia and Europe as a teenager, he would go to those tournaments too. And so he took me under his wing and really looked after me. And he was just so willing to share and just talk. Well, he wouldn't coach me per se, but I would just ask question after question. And then he would just give me his honest take on it. And through those conversations, whether they were the 24 hours on a plane to Europe or, sharing a hotel room with him, and you just, at the end of the day, going, man, I don't know what happened. The ball just didn't do this. The ball didn't do that. And he would just, tell you what he saw. And I learned so much. So he was definitely, and still is, someone I look up to.
Yeah. I got to get into your reaction, your take on this news about CBS taking on not only what we know as the Tour Finals, but will be the Commissioner's Cup and the World Series of Bowling. Like I said earlier, we're kind of getting some more of the pieces of the puzzle. There's still questions out there about how this thing is going to look, but what do you think of what's out there so far?
Yeah, it's a really difficult thing, I suppose, to know what it's gonna look like and how it's gonna feel and what our viewership's gonna look like. What we know is with Fox, we had a great partner. Our audiences were rising, and so when the news came out that the PBA couldn't negotiate a deal with Fox, I think we were all pretty worried. Was probably the very first thing, was like, if we're not going to be on Fox, then what is going to happen? I'm also rather optimistic in my life for a lot of things. And so when the news came out about the CW and about CBS Sports and CBS, I think at face value, you would say it's probably not as good. That's the honesty of it. But that's not to say that CBS and the CW aren't interested in really helping us grow. And so maybe year 1 and year 2 may feel and look like it's not quite as good as Fox and our relationship with them. But maybe year 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, however long it goes for, maybe there is some real investment poured into it from the networks, from the PBA. And we'll look back in half a decade and go, hey, when we're all really worried about losing Fox, we're actually doing better now. I mean, that's how I'd like to look at it. I think if you look at it any other way, it just makes it harder to get to that spot, right? If all the players and the fans and the PBA itself is really upset that we aren't on Fox anymore, then I feel like, our new partners are probably feeling, well, we don't feel very loved over here. So, if we don't feel very loved, why should we show you more love? So I think as a player and as a fan, I think it's our responsibility to be like, well, this is where the powers of be have signed the deals, and we've got to give them a good crack at it. So I'm excited to meet and be on their networks for the first time and meet the people that are a part of it all. And I hope that they see us as a long-term partner that, I don't know, we can really grow each other.
Just watch, folks. Just watch. That's all we're saying here. I agree with you
That's
on
it.
that. Yeah. I have to ask the question, because I'd be remiss if I didn't. the PBA Players Championship. The backstory to this, as Jeff Riggles reported on 11thframe.com, Sean Rash reported to the national tour director that he had been made aware that another player saw you vaping in the paddock, which would have been a rules violation. The tour director told Jeff the player didn't report it. PBA investigates, finds inconclusive but circumstantial evidence, and they discipline you for it. Would you like to set the record straight on what happened?
Yeah, I think I already have. I've talked to the PBA about it. I've spoken to all the players involved that have questioned me and told them what I thought and what had happened. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's all done and taken care of, and moving on to the next one.
Yeah. Can you tell us what the discipline was?
No, it was all handled within the PBA, and I definitely don't think the discipline, it wasn't necessarily like a punishment. It was more of I suppose, an understanding, of if you do this, this is what will happen to you. Okay. Sure, no problem. Thanks for letting me know. So that's kind of where I was. Just thanks for the information about it all. Like I said, I told my story to all the players and all the PBA staff involved. They made their decisions. Moving on.
Fair enough. Brooke wants to know if she can get a shout out for the Clark bowlers that she's coaching. They would love it coming from you. Yeah,
Clark bowlers. Belmo, wish you all the best. Listen to your coach, okay? Even though she's probably a little preoccupied at the moment, dealing with something. Still listen to her, okay? Because she's a good coach. She knows what she's saying.
And she's passionate about it. That's for sure. Yeah. So BSJ83 wants to know what you do in Australia when you're not on tour. And I do want to make clear that that's where you are right now. You're in Australia. It's like 10 in the morning tomorrow for us. So it's almost like a time travel thing. But what do you do back home?
Yeah, I'm pretty much very focused on my children and on my family. I do have a few projects that I work on, and I love doing that stuff. I love researching and building things and launching things and having fun in the entrepreneurial world. But mostly, I've got 4 children that I adore, and so it's hanging out with them, talking with them, taking them to the places they need to go, watching them do the things that they do, and then bringing them all back home at the end of the day. So it's a busy day, but I think the thing that kind of blows my mind about it all is they're getting older, and the amount of things that they're obligated to do or signed up to do, from dancing to rugby to singing lessons to bowling. There's so many things that they have every afternoon that I actually have a little notes with Monday, Tuesday, all the days of the week, all of the activities, what time they start, what time they stop. There's no way I could remember it all if I didn't write it down.
Yeah. Does it get harder and harder to make that sacrifice? And when I say the sacrifice, it's the time away from them, the time away from your wife, the time away from your home country to take on this great challenge that we know you've succeeded at many times, but it's been more than 15 years that you're leaving them for months out of the year.
Yeah, more closer to over 20, because I was doing a lot of this as an amateur prior to the PBA Tour. I think the best way for me to describe it is the moment I get in the car to drive to Sydney to get on the plane, the moment I start that action, I want to turn around and go home. But the moment I get home, I'm itching to compete again. And so it is a really delicate kind of balance that I've tried to create through my career, where I have enough of one thing but not too much of the other, and so the scales don't lopside themselves a little bit. And so I still feel that now, the season is over, but we have the tour finals, and I'm extremely excited to get back on a plane and to go and compete. But I know once I start that drive to go do it, I will want to turn right back around and stay home. So I don't know how I'm going to ever rectify that. I know at some point I can't keep doing this forever, and I think there's a part of me that doesn't want to do it forever, but right now I still want to do it. And so it's a very fine line of happiness that I sit on. It's just a little tip this way and I'm miserable on either side of the fence. It's very hard to sit on the middle of the fence for a long period of time evenly. But both my family, my sponsors, everyone has been super aware of that balance and helping me manage it. And from my family's perspective, they aren't asking me to stay home any more than I can. It's my sponsors who aren't asking me to travel any more than I have to. And so I'm very, very fortunate, very, very grateful to have, on that side of the fence, on both sides, people who are really understanding and helpful.
Yeah. Take us back to the beginning. I mean, I know it's been a long career, a very prosperous career, an incredible story of you, growing up there in your home center, ascending to these heights that, 0.00001% of us may even hope to achieve. But how does that story go for you? And like I said, in a Cliff's Notes version of when you first originated in the sport of bowling, to the Belmo we know now.
Yeah, I think I bowled because I loved it. That's the reason why I started it. That's the reason why I still do it. I mean, it's part of my DNA. It's, if I don't do this, then I just don't feel me. And I think I've had that feeling about bowling for as far back as I can remember. If I wasn't bowling, then I wasn't me and I wasn't happy. I wanted to be a bowler. I wanted to be bowling. And so growing up in a bowling center, I had a lot of access to that. And yeah, I bowled and bowled and bowled and bowled and bowled. But like I mentioned earlier, the awareness of the rest of the world in bowling was just not there. I just bowled because I loved it. And then the competitiveness in me, even from, 7, 8-year-old through to, 13, 14-year-old, like I was super competitive against all the people in my town, all the people in the surrounding towns. And I was winning against all of these adults and all these other juniors. And I love that feeling. I love to be able to do what I loved and then also compete and win. And then it was Andrew Frawley, who I mentioned earlier, who actually started to invite me, hey, why don't you come and join me in Asia? That'd be kind of cool if you want to do that. Maybe we can bowl some bigger events in Australia and see how we go. And then we can go and do these events in Asia. And then from Asia, you actually just need one more flight and you get to Europe. And then we can bowl some stuff in Europe. And then we'll fly back through Asia. We'll do some tournaments there and then we'll come home. And so some of these trips were like, 4 or 5 week long trips where you'd hit an Australian tournament, carry on to Singapore, carry on to Norway, bowl in Bahrain, fly back through Malaysia, come back to Brisbane, and then you'd finish your 5-week tour, bowl in 5 or 6 events. And it was incredible. For me, the eye opener was really just this network, this organic network of bowlers globally. And it put me, I think, really quickly in my place, because growing up in Australia and bowling in Australian tournaments, we have some really fine bowlers, but very few of them would be PBA quality players. And so I was winning a lot of these tournaments, and my confidence level, you could say, was about as maxed out as you could possibly get. But then you go to Asia and you meet all of the Asian players, and they dedicate themselves to the game of bowling, and the patterns they were bowling on were wildly different to what I was used to bowling. And then, you fail because you're not used to that environment. Then you go to Europe and you're like, oh, this is a little bit more like back home. And then you realize that there are 30 players that just repeat incredibly. And you're like, and I'm missing all my spares and I'm missing these cuts. And you get this very quick awakening of you're not as good as you think you are. You're never as good as you think you are. There's always a bigger fish. And so those experiences, I think, really motivated me to grow in size. Like I wanted to be a bigger fish. You know, I wanted to win not just in my hometown or in my country. I wanted to win globally. And so that's where that kind of path took me. But it also delayed my representation on the PBA Tour. So I didn't bowl on the PBA Tour until I was, I think, 27 was my first full year on tour. And so, you know, you look at guys today like Anthony Simonson, EJ Tackett, these guys were teenagers when they came out on tour. And so for me, I don't know if it was better or worse for my PBA career, having bowled to Asia and Europe first, but the experiences, the friends, the places that I got to go to. I mean, I've been to nearly over 50 countries in the world bowling. So the places that I've been able to see and experience, you know, that's stuff that you can't get on the PBA Tour. No matter how many years you've bowled just on the PBA Tour, you don't get to experience what I've been able to experience. So I think I'm very grateful for the path that I took, even if it meant a slight delay in my PBA career. But it's worked out okay, I think, in the end.
I would agree. I kind of watched back at your first televised appearance during this week, and I was watching your mannerisms and I was listening, and you were kind of talking a little more. You were a little more excitable from the big moments of winning that title, beating your buddy Bill O'Neill and Wes Malott on that show. Was there a point where you decided that you were going to become this other Belmo that we see now and we've seen for several years, that's a little quieter, that's almost stoic until the big moment, and you don't need to be as focused because the match is over and you've won?
Yeah, I think there's probably two real main reasons why there's been a shift in the way that I approach the game, especially on television. But that is also trickled down into qualifying. The very first is I grew up and through Asia and through Europe, like everyone is very animated, very, very animated. And I used to love it, right? I used to watch Tim Mack bowl, and he would let out these massive, like, let's go, come on. Like, and no one used to get upset at Timmy for letting that out. And people, including the other players, it was exciting. You'd want to watch it. When I came to the PBA Tour, it was very different. Like the pros hated anybody who made any movement, any whatever it was. There wasn't an understanding of, hey, this is exciting and entertainment. It was, you're distracting me, stop it. And yeah, my first couple of full seasons on tour was just constantly getting warned, hey, you're moving around too much on the approach. Hey, you're talking at the back and people can hear you. And, you know, it got pretty crazy to me because that's just not how I knew bowling. And like, if I was honest, like if I was watching, and even today, if someone, I don't know, lets out a fist pump but slaps too loudly, you have players all stare at the guy and give him death stares and ask him to stop doing that. And it makes me sad because I understand that there is a level of distraction that the player, you know, has an expectation of. But more than anything, we want people to come and watch us and be entertained. I feel like my mannerisms today are probably part because I'm just not allowed. You know, I feel like I'm not allowed to in qualifying. And then that just kind of spilled into TV, where I'm just probably a little more, quieter, more channeled internally. And then when there's a moment that I can let it out, I kind of let it out in that moment. But I don't know. I really want to go back to how I was when I was young and just, jumping around a little more and being a little more animated, being a little louder. Not because I think it's distracting to the players, but because I think people who watch us, they are the most important people in bowling. It's the fans, it's the people who are tuning in on TV, but also we want them to come to the venues and want them to have a good time. And if the whole place is quiet and bowlers are getting mad for fans interacting too loudly, or bowlers having an enjoyable trip 4-pin moment, I don't know. It bothers me. It still bothers me today.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, and that's the kind of thing that we see, and, we think, wow, he's having the success. That must be, the right thing to do. So you may be unknowingly kind of, teaching that lesson that you learned to a bunch of us who are watching you. One of the things that I love to do on this show is talk to folks that know the guest ahead of time and get a few quotes and some anecdotes about that guest and then pull them out on the show. And I figured nobody in my, I guess, extended circle from interviewing people knows you quite like Deandra Asbaty. So I reached out and, I asked her about you, and she mentioned, meeting you at the World Championships in 2003. And, he said, or she said, it was this year, the unique time that everyone knew me, but no one knew him. And she will always hang on to that time because it will never exist again. And that everyone at that event in Malaysia kept telling her, did you see the kid from Australia bowl? He bowls with two hands. And it wasn't all that common at the time. And she didn't even know how someone could bowl with two hands. How did your relationship kind of start and develop from that point?
Yeah, Dee, when I first met Dee, it was one of those kind of chance meetings where she was representing the US. I was really good friends with a lot of the guys on the American team. And when you're traveling, it's one of the reasons why Bill O'Neill, Mike Fagan, and I kind of met as well. We met in Korea, but the reason why we probably gravitate towards each other is you go to these big meets, not everybody speaks English. I mean, a lot of places do, but not everybody does. And so you kind of gravitate towards those that you can communicate with. And so met Dee at the 2003 World Championships, like you said, in Malaysia. Kind of hit it off. Just said, "Hey, you're bowling great. Congratulations!" And she complimented me on the way that I was bowling. And yeah, she just was always her. Then when I ended up meeting John, her husband, they've always been two people that if I'm having a bit of a downtime, they would just reach out. Like I wouldn't have to contact them; they would contact me and say, "Hey, is everything all right? You don't look yourself on TV," or your scores this week are a little lower on a pattern that we thought you might have killed. Are you doing okay? And just that truly kind and empathetic friend to trust. It's not common, especially out on the pro tour. I think it's a very dog eat dog world in competitive sports and especially in professional sports. So, I didn't really feel like I had that circle of people on tour or in America that, if things were a little tougher, I could rely on them. And so they welcomed me into their home. I would stay there whenever I was in and around Chicago. We would go out together. We would, just have a really good time. And then obviously now that she's got 2 children, her children are awesome. And so it's kind of like, they put me on their phone plan a long time ago, like long time ago, so I could get an American number. And we joked for a long time that she and John were my mother and father because they put me on as their child on their phone plan. And so, I'd always call out to go, "Hey, Dad, do we have any tea left in the house? Do you reckon you can run to the shops and get some tea for me?" It was that kind of a friendship where I could just kind of be myself. And I'm very grateful to have met, Deandra and now John and Madden and Jersey as well. They're just a wonderful family. So in my family, we had a chance to, I think on 2 or 3 occasions, we've had a chance to all be together. And it's just a wonderful time and very grateful for them for sure. So that's how all that started. And she's right. That 2003 may be the only time where, she I can't even get it out without laughing, but she will be more famous than me.
Yeah, for sure.
Sorry, Dave.
No, she's fantastic. And the thing that I love about her is she has such a way with words, and that's why I love hitting her up for stuff like this. She says, you're a special talent that the bowling world may never see again. It's your conviction in your goals and belief that no one will stop you. She says, you aren't afraid to dream. She says, you set those outer space goals, the goals that people would be scared to set because the likelihood of them reaching them is so small, but that you're not afraid of anything.
That's very kind of her to say. I think that's one of the things that I think people don't like that about me is it can definitely be construed as arrogance. And I'm aware of that, but I'm at the point where I think I don't really care what the perception of why I'm trying to chase the goals that I have. Like, I don't care if when I say I want to reach 20 major championships, like, and if someone says 20, I mean, this guy's crazy. Like, how arrogant of him to think he's going to reach 20 major championships. And when I hear things like that, my argument is, when I was a rookie and you had have told me that I was going to get 15, like, what would be more unlikely, right, at any given time? Is it more unlikely to think when I was a rookie that I would reach 15 majors, or now that I have 15, that I can get to 20? And I look back at these things that I've been able to accomplish, and I think, what would I have thought before I did it? Would it have felt impossible? And if the answer to that is, yeah, probably felt very unlikely and very impossible. And then yet, here are the trophies that you have after the fact. So why can't you keep creating these outer space goals, as she says? Like, why not? Like, I didn't think I was going to get this far. So who's to say I won't get further, But again, I know when I say it and I say things like, I want to be the best that's ever laced the shoes up, I know that people go, the arrogance of this guy, how does he think he's ever going to do this? And it's not really meant for them. It's meant for me. It's meant for me to see where I want to get. And I may not reach it. I don't think I have an expectation of getting to 20. I don't think I will get there. It's, I want to get there. I want to get there. So I'm going to push for it. And if I come up short, at least I can look back and go, man, I gave it everything I got to get to 20. Didn't quite get there. But who's to say I don't get to 20? I'm going to say, I want to get to 25. Like, I'm just going to keep pushing it until I'm dead. And then it's over. Then it's over.
Yeah. Keep betting against me, right? That's the attitude that you need to win. But apart from the on-lane stuff, she mentioned that you are always willing to help. And if you see how he is with fans, you'd understand. Fortunately, I got to see that when when you were in Waukesha. She says that he always makes them feel that they're the most important people in the room. I don't know why this is playing so weird. That's supposed to be the program. There we go. She said you've done things for free to support terminally ill children, and that you do a lot for others that no one sees or knows about. And that's a personal choice, but why is that kind of thing important to you?
Yeah, honestly, it's probably one of the things that not just myself, but something I'm really proud of from the entire tour. If you go to our pro-ams and you go to events that we participate in, I cannot recall, outside of maybe Pete Weber, he may be the only one, but I cannot recall anybody being rude, mean, ignoring the fans. We definitely have moments where sometimes the fan will just overstep that particular moment. So, for example, somebody may miss a spare to miss a TV show, And there's a moment there where we are so accessible. The fan can just walk down to the players area and hand you a pin. And there have been moments where you see the player. I've never seen them tell them to go away, but you can see that the engagement is different. And so it should be. This guy has just lost something that he was working so hard towards and he's missed it. And we don't have the luxury as a player to have boundaries set up. But even in that moment, that player will still sign the pin. It just may not be quite as jovial. But every other time, I think we understand just how important it is, and that whilst we may meet thousands of people across the year in pro-ams and in events and in our travels, the interaction with that one person that you're meeting in that one moment, it may be your only chance that they meet you. And so that's something that weighs on me. And if there's ever a time where, sometimes someone will say, hey, I tried to talk to you at wherever and you kind of blew me off, like, that is never what I'm trying to do. Or it's usually because I'm doing something with so many people that you can't get to everybody at the same time. So you're doing your absolute best. But I still get criticized, even though as much as I try to give the fans, you don't have enough of you to fit it all in. But I promise you, if you have time and patience and you're willing to wait, like, we will get to everybody. And again, that's not just me. That is for the entire PBA Tour and Ladies Tour, as far as I'm aware. Like, if there is a line for you to sign stuff, I mean, it is almost impossible for that player to say, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm leaving. They will finish the line. And that's what I love about our tour. Other sports, we have boundaries. We can't have access to them. And it makes me laugh when I see, like, on some Sports Center highlight, like, oh, this player signed this kid's shirt after the game. What an amazing guy. And I'm like, dude, like, we will sign 300. I'll give away half of my equipment. Guys are giving shoes away. Like, it's so different in the expectation of what fans expect from us, because of the access to us is so ready. They just need to tap me on the shoulder and then, here, sign this. Where, trying to get LeBron's signature is impossible unless you jump the fence and you're a kid and, you're dodging security guards and then you get to him. But again, I think it's super important, even though sometimes you're tired and it's been a long day. Like I said, that meeting with you, it may be the one and only time they get a chance to be that close with you. So try to give it and try to make it a really enjoyable experience for them.
Yeah. A lot of people in the chat are bringing up the same thing that I'm thinking. And here's what Rad Rob said. Verity was just posting on this today. Fans need to understand it's their job. Maybe wait until after the squad. Yeah, we're coming into your workplace. And if the tables were turned, it might look a little different if you were coming into their workplace. So I guess I have to ask, because I interviewed Randy Peterson once, and he brought up that, that fact that the access is there, the vicinity of the fans and the players is so close. And he said maybe perhaps a little too close. Do you think that is something that needs to change in the future?
Yeah. And here is how I'll answer that. I think we don't have very clear boundaries. And it's partly because, when we're bowling a tournament, we have to change lanes and then we have to sometimes cross from one end of the building to the other. And so we're trying to maneuver all of the bowlers and bowling gear. And we're also trying to get to our next pair, which is essentially we are now encroaching on the fan area. And so we kind of do it to ourselves a little bit. So the player has access to the fan space because we have to move to the next pairs. But we're also asking the fan, don't come down to us, but there's no clear boundary. So now you're really relying on people having common sense, maybe a little respect, having a little patience. But again, like the clock says Daddy's got to go to work in 20 minutes and you haven't got Belmo's autograph yet. I know he's still bowling, but we aren't going to be here till the end of the squad. So quickly, go and get it now so we can go. And that's where those lines are really blurry. The way that I would love to be able to see it is, I wish we had kind of roped off space for the players to maneuver from pair to pair where the fan knows, oh, there's a rope here. We're clearly not allowed to go beyond that. And then I think it's important that the players are scheduled for time, whether it's during competition, pro-am time or whatever, but we should designate time slots throughout the week where 3 or 4 players, if you're in the A squad this week, for an hour, you need to go to the bowling center from this time, and we're going to have an area set up where fans can come and get your autograph and take your photo, and give them that, again, set boundaries. They're not allowed to just congregate in this big crowd. They have to line up. They have to do it all correctly, but we give them the time. So now they're not trying to steal our time and pinch it while we're in the middle of competing, like what happened to Verity, I suppose. I actually didn't read her post, but I think I'm very aware. I could already imagine someone expected something of her and she was not able to do it, and so they took it personally.
He was disappointed about
probably probably took it personally. I can't believe you dodged me like that, and it's very much not like that. I can tell you it's just not like that. But yeah, if Verity was designated for an hour at 5 to 6 p.m. on this day to do her meet and greet during the tournament plus the pro-am, like I think that would make sense for everybody. And then we as players can inform, hey, listen, during competition, well, actually we probably shouldn't be saying it, could be notified through the bowling center and whatnot. But even if a player comes up to me and say, hey, I'm actually scheduled from this time to this time, I'll be there to take care of everyone's needs, and then I can then carry on with my preparation for the next squad. Again, it's not always like that. It's a little bit tricky. But I do think that if the player encroaches on the fan area, then you have to expect you're going to get tapped on the shoulder, sign this. Yeah, I'm in the fan area. But if we're in the players area, I really don't blame the fan. I don't. I think we need to do a better job at setting the boundaries up. And yeah, I get it. People can be like, this guy should have been way more professional or way more understanding with Verity. It's her job. Like I said, these people may not get another opportunity to see these people. So I would ask you, like, what would you do if Tiger Woods or, Tom Cruise was walking past you? Like, you would take that opportunity. You're probably like overstepping a boundary, but you're also thinking, I'm never going to get this chance again, or very rarely am I going to get this chance again. So it's not their fault. It's the organizer's fault not setting up those boundaries. I spoke way too long for that. Sorry, but
it makes sense. It's something you're passionate about. Just let the videographers with the media things inside the ropes and work.
Sure. I have no problem with that. Yeah.
This has been a very special year for Bill O'Neill, who, like I said before, you're good friends with. Not only do you win a doubles title with him, you get to see him go into the PBA Hall of Fame. What's that been like from your vantage point?
Yeah, I met Bill, I think right after he went on tour. I don't think he was no, he was not on tour. I met him in way before that. We were both amateurs. So we met in Korea for the first time. I mentioned this briefly. Him and Mike Fagan. Again, they spoke English, and so we kind of drew into each other, and we were able to talk and hang out. And I was like, oh, this guy's really funny, and this guy seems to like a lot of things that I like, and same with Fagan. And that's kind of where that friendship started. And I'm going to guess, but I'm going to say that was like maybe 2005 or 6. So it's been 20 years that I've known both of those guys for. And so seeing Bill progress through his career as closely as I've been able to watch it, it's been a remarkable career. The only thing I wished more for Bill, was that he saw how great he was through his own eyes. I think Bill always didn't think highly enough about himself. And when I watched him go into the Hall of Fame, you know, he's been a Hall of Famer in my eyes since he was eligible. Like, I didn't need to wait for the 20 years that he had to wait to be a part of the PBA to be a Hall of Famer. Like, you know, it's a moment in which you see someone sacrifice time away from family and friends, time away from home, the sacrifice of winning and losing, and the emotional ups and downs that we go through. It's the brutal places that we have to go to in the middle of winter to provide for our families, the stress of providing for your family, that, you know, if you don't have a good week, month, year, like, that's a lot of pressure that you have on you to provide. You know, and it's very different for us as athletes, in particular bowling, because we may have contracts with sponsors, and there may be bowlers that are earning money through those contracts, but the majority of our money is earned through our earnings. And so, you know, you have children that you bring into the world that they don't know what it's like for you to show up and have to double in the 10th to make the cut so you can earn a little bit more money, and still they don't know what that means. And so sometimes as a father, it can be really hard to process that. So I've seen Bill having to go through those incredibly hard times, you know, where all he wants to do is bowl well and provide for his family. And sometimes the ball doesn't want to do that. So seeing all of that sacrifice, and then seeing the ups, and been a part of so many of those ups, winning doubles championships with him, and like I said earlier, been that close to it all. Yeah, the Hall of Fame is like, that is our Everest. That is the combination of 2 decades worth of blood, sweat, and tears that is rewarded with this immortal status, where this is, you are a part of something now forever. And I love that for him.
Yeah. We are getting close to an hour here, so I want to wrap this up. There are a lot of comments that I haven't been able to get to, and my apologies. What is the way that you prefer your fans to ask questions, or, you know, contact you, or ask you to roast them, you know, all that stuff?
I mean, I don't think I have a preferred way. I think if you happen to meet me and you need something from me, I'm more than happy to fulfill your request within reason. On the spot. I mean, I get a lot of emails, I get cameos, I get DMs. Usually when it comes to DMs, I'm a little bit slower. I don't typically use social media maybe like a lot of people do. I think I use it really just to keep in touch with my family and my friends and see what they're up to. But, you know, kind of scrolling upon scrolling, and then going through my DMs and reading them all every single minute of every single day, I don't really do that. So I do try to get back to people as quickly as I can, but I kind of, very similar to how I suggested we do the PBA signings, I kind of, you know, break off some time in the week and say, right, I'm going to dedicate this time to catching up on fan emails and catching up on DMs if I need to reply to anything, or doing cameos and roasting people if that's what they want. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, however you can reach me, shoot me a message, come up and say hi to me if you see me, and then I'll get back to you as soon as I can, and I'll happily do whatever you need me to do in person.
Okay. One more question off the sheet and we're out. Chris Pulliam said beforehand he'd love to hear your thoughts on cross support between the PBA and PWBA, and how to increase that so that both tours flourish. Kind of like you had the collaboration with Sandra Gongora with the Volat. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, Volat, yeah. Oh, listen, mate, I have... So when Bolaro purchased the PBA, I had a meeting with then Commissioner Coley Edison, and she had asked me, and she was very, very headstrong and determined to create equality in women's sports in bowling. And I remember telling her for a really long time, one of the best US Opens I ever bowled was when the men's and women's US Opens bowled together. And I will never forget, we were in 3 different bowling centers in Columbus, Ohio. We were in 3 different bowling centers, and it was 10 rows back, packed. because you had people that were interested in coming watching the men, you had people who were interested in coming watching the women, and then we were combined in the one spot. So I would love to see a tour where, you know, on lanes 1 and 2, you got a section of men qualifiers, 3 and 4 women, 5 and 6 men, 7 and 8 women, and you kind of break it up. You can oil the lanes differently if you wanted to, right? You can create a cross, which you only hit the pairs of lanes that your sex is bowling on. So you can do all those things. We have the technology, right? We can do it. And I feel like that's a really great way to be able to grow grassroots, to invite men and women and boys and girls to come and watch bowling and see it all in its glory and pack a place out. And yeah, I've always thought that. So I suggested that to her. And I think Coley was very, very close, I believe, to purchasing the PWBA. But in the end, it didn't quite work out. And so they stayed separate. But I did think that would be such a great way to host a professional event is, yeah, like, you know, tennis do it a lot, right? Tennis, for the especially for the major championships, the men and women are playing at the same time on the same courts. Like, I think it's kind of cool for everyone to kind of get a little of what they want. And yeah, maybe that's a way to still, I mean, it's still a chance, still an opportunity. I mean, I'm sure you just got to get 2 people in the room that make those decisions and see if they can't come to an agreement. But I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I think what I would probably want more than anything, though, is I would love it if local places did way more promotion to colleges and schools and their junior league bowlers and stuff like that, and bring them into the bowling centers when the Pro Tour is in town. I think the days in which that happens, there's a different energy in the building when there's, you know, teenagers and, you know, 18, 19-year-old college kids who are it's a different vibe, right? They're just starting their careers. They're just super interested in finding the right, or learning, I should say, learning the right techniques for them. And so to watch the pros up close, again, male and female in the same building, having colleges and boys and girls college teams coming in and watching their pros, it'd be so much fun.
Yeah. And you have those people watch my live stream from the Collegiate Club National Championships. They did exactly that. So I think there's some fuel for your case. There is one more thing that I need to do before I let you go, and that's called off the sheet. Take a look.
Let's go off the sheet. Challenge a bowler to appear on a future episode.
I would like to challenge Will Madison.
I would say Diana Zavulova.
The better Russo, Lauren Russo.
We're looking for anyone who has a passion for the sport and a unique story to tell.
Pretty cool that you're in that video, huh? But that's the challenge for you, is to challenge somebody else to be on a future episode. Your words carry weight. So Belmo, please let us know who you'd like to see on a future episode of Bowling with the Faf and why.
I don't know who you've had on, so forgive me if these names don't hit, right? If you've already had them.
Have them back.
But I would say there's probably, I'm going to rattle off a few names here. I think Chris Sloan would be a really good person to have. Again, forgive me if you've had these guys. I think Kevin Williams would be a really entertaining person. I think Packy Hanrahan would also be a really interesting person. Francois Lavoie and Chris Vi. Both of those people have great stories as well. So I feel like based on that, you've got a few to kind of throw a dart at. And I don't know, hopefully one of them want to do the show with you. But yeah, those are good guys. They'll be entertaining for you, give you a couple of laughs and tell you a little story. That'll be good.
Yeah.
Try that.
And 3 out of the 5 have not been on the live show. So guys,
there you go. All right.
Go. Belmo says. Belmo, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for spending time with us and being so generous with your time. Happy times at home for you. Safe travels to the tour finals, and we'll be watching.
Appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And there he goes, the great Jason Belmonte. Just a pleasure to have him on. Like I said, so many questions that I didn't get to. I really wish I had gotten to more, but hit him up on his social media. See what he says. You never know. You might get an answer from him. Next live stream is coming up a week from tonight, and this is going to be one that's a little different. Torrie Bartalone reached out to me, said she wants to share a story publicly. She said it is regarding a conference representative being biased towards a player intentionally and allowing a coach to bully the coach of the program this player is on. If you can follow that. She goes on to say it cost her player of the year in conference because she says he changed the rules not in the sports guidelines manual after stats were released. So that's kind of the basis, what I have to work on. Here are some facts. Torrie has been head coach of the Elmhurst women's bowling team in Illinois, which competes as part of the College Conference of Illinois and Wisconsin for the past 3 seasons. She has a sister, Lori Decker, who just wrapped up her senior season with Elmhurst and even made it to the Intercollegiate Singles Championship bracket this year. She was the first from Elmhurst to do that. Whether one relates to the other, I'm not sure at this point. We will see. But Torrie will join us a week from tonight, 7 p.m. Central. Hope you'll join us for then. Until then, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Belmo as much as I did. Until next week, have a great one, everybody.
Thank you for watching Bowling with the Fef. Pound the like button and subscribe button. It's the easiest way to support the channel, and it's free. Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet. Raise your snack standards.
Jerry's Score More Bowling Supply inside Wagner's Lane. So Eau Claire, Wisconsin area's leader in bowling products and services since 1988. And Visionary Video Hub. Video with impact.
Email bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com with questions or to appear on the show. You can also reach out on your favorite social media platform.